So my name is Floyd Velasquez. I'm the Emergency Services Administrator for the Morongo Band of Mission Indians. I wanted to thank everybody for attending the conference and taking the time out of your busy day to make all of this happen. And I would like to talk to you about working with federal agencies, state agencies, county agencies, and some of the best practices that we've found in working with those. So first thing is working with federal agencies as far as like FEMA, with any of them, don't wait until you need them. Don't wait until you're trying you have an issue and you're trying to work through it. Get in touch with them beforehand, work through it, get introductions, get them to you, get you to them, whatever the case needs to be, and start working those relationships so that you can have a conversation without any hassle or pressure of an emergency declaration or actually needing the information from somebody. So just try to do that, get that out. That's the best thing up front that I can tell you to do. FEMA is the easiest. FEMA has tribal liaisons. FEMA has technical assistance to help walk you through anything that you need from them. So if you're in the middle of a disaster like we just did with this pandemic, I don't know how many of you climbed on with the state or the feds, state or feds, however you decided to go to do a disaster. When it comes to the COVID, they can technically assist you on how to set it up, the documents that are needed, everything that's needed, everything you need to do to go, and they'll just work straight through it. Second part is working with the states. The states have tribal liaisons also, but they're not as tribal friendly as FEMA is. So if you could go federally on your disaster or any of the stuff that you can, it is a little bit more documentation is required, but they are there to help you. As far as the counties, the same thing. Counties are great to work with if you can get a good relationship with them. Some counties don't want to talk to tribes, and some counties have great relationships. We actually have a mutual aid agreement with the county, and we help each other out all the time. So it depends on what works best for your tribe. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about things that are coming as far as power outages, PSPS, as far as fire. We're just coming into the heat of fire season. That you might need to do what's called an FMAG, which is a Fire Management Assistance Grant. We were part of the Apple Fire and were evacuated through the county and had to set up an emergency operations center. We don't exactly deal well with the Red Cross and their situations. We're more into the tribal part of it, where we want to follow some of the customs and traditions that we have for working with our elderly and the access and functional needs people, and not only that, children. So we want to follow that, so we always do it ourselves. As far as opening up our own shelters and stuff. So when you do that, if you do decide to do that, there's food involved, and if we're just evacuating children and things, we have teddy bears for the kids set up. We have stuff stashed around on the res and stuff to be able to have these centers open, which includes even some hard candy for the kids. It doesn't expire, but it just helps the kids kind of mellow out. The parents are stressed enough, and the kids are pretty good about picking that stuff up. So if you can get that together and do that, do everything you need to, then you can file for the FMAG, and you will be reimbursed for your costs. The only tricky thing with the FMAG is that you have to do it at the time while the fire is going on. You can't wait until it goes. You have to put in the paperwork while the fire is going, while the evacuations are going, and they kind of give you a tentative approval once it's received, and then you can go on and deal with the duties with that, as far as setting up your own evacuation center and items like that. So what I want to talk to you about is grants. Grants can help a tribe get everything that they need to do anything with emergency management. We have just about everything you can think of, and we've spent no tribal dollars for our program. We have FEMA disaster response trailers that include cots. We have cots and blankets and pillows and everything for every tribal member that we think that we're going to have a problem with. And excess water, storage water, just all an emergency operations room, emergency operation trailer, all done by grants. There was no tribal dollars spent for it. There was no share of cost with the Tribal Homeland Security grant. You get these grants, they'll even pay for your employees. They'll pay for you to write. One of the requirements for you to go direct to FEMA for a disaster declaration or an FMAG or any of that stuff is that you have to have a THIRA. And in that, you can put the funding in that grant to pay for people to do that. Whether you hire somebody, you can hire an outside agency to do it, or do it yourself, or have FEMA come down and sit with you, and they will, and they'll sit and walk you through step by step to be able to make it. So if you can go through FEMA and you can get the grants, it will pay you more than it will with the state. You can put in for cost waivers. Most of the disaster declarations are 75-25, with the exception of the last COVID one. I don't know, like I had mentioned earlier, I don't know if you guys got any of your costs back from FEMA for expenses with COVID, but if you did, the president waived it to be 100%, but it was supposed to be 75-25. So you can get 100% of your costs back from the federal government for what it cost you to do in the FEMA stuff, or in the COVID stuff, excuse me. So that being said, now the next thing would be the state. The state is easier to get a disaster through because you don't have to have all the required documentation that FEMA has. The state that has to have it. And you go in as a subrecipient, is what it's called, and you go through the state. They turn in your paperwork, they turn in all the stuff, and it's very easy. But the only problem is that, again, the state doesn't allow tribes to apply for things differently. And what I'm saying by that is that if you go to FEMA Direct and you put in for a disaster declaration and you want to put in for a lower share of cost to get it to, instead of 75%, you want to go to 90%, you can put in a request for that. Most of the time it's accepted. In the state of California, you have to go with whatever the state gets, and they give you whatever they get. So even though you might show that you have a bigger need for a lower share of cost, in other words, the tribe doesn't have enough to pay that 25% share of cost, you cannot request a lower share of cost through the state. You have to do it. You have to live with whatever the state gives. And the other bad thing is that the state has, where they help in some cases on some grants, where they pay a certain portion of your 25%. But again, the state of California doesn't pay or allow tribes to do that, to be a part of this. It's called the CFAA. It's What a surprise they got an acronym for something, right? But it's there. You can do it either way you want, and it'll all work. Again, thank you guys for your time. This is a very important issue. Um, the children are the most important in the future of all of our lives and all of our lives on the reservation, and everything that's going to come up through the reservation is through them. So thank you again for taking the time to attend. And if I could be of any assistance, my contact information is in here, and I'm looking forward to helping or hearing concerns, comments, or questions from any of you. Again, thank you very much.